The e-commerce market in Southeast Asia's biggest economy, Indonesia, has become an investment magnet in recent years. Now, leading the trend is Indonesian unicorn Bukalapak, which has been really aggressive in expanding its footprint, reaching to other ASEAN nations, including Malaysia, Singapore, and Brunei, while foreign and local investors are pumping in big money to capitalize on Indonesia's fast-growing economy. And this morning, to hear more about the success story behind his business and his future plans, Bukalapak's co-founder and president, Fajrin Rasyid, joins me live at the Media Center for the 2019 ASEAN-Korea Commemorative Summit. Welcome from Busan.
Thank you.
All
Thanks
right.
for having me.
Now, first and foremost, though, for those of us who may not be familiar with the term unicorn startup, tell us more about what this is and how Bukalapak fits into that category.
Right, so first of all, startup itself is actually a business who aims to solve local problems using technology, usually in the forms of application, mobile apps, or hardwares. And unicorn startups are those startups who then used by a lot of people, and then it provides economic value and has achieved valuation of more than $1 billion US. In South Korea, we have more than 10 unicorns. In ASEAN, we have about 8 or 9 unicorns, and Bukalapak is one of them.
Okay. Now, South Korea's top securities firm, Mita, has said, and the internet portal giant Naver announced earlier this year that it will invest, the joint venture will invest $50 million US into Bukalapak. Tell us more about this.
Yeah, so you are correct that Mirai Asset and Naver have both invested in Bukalapak, and recently, just 1 month ago, another Korean company, Shinhan Bank, also invested in Bukalapak. So we have now 3 foreign investors from South Korea, among other investors from other countries like Singapore, Japan, China, and others. So this proves that when we talk about the technology or startups, it's not just in developed market like South Korea. It's also happening in emerging markets like ASEAN, especially Indonesia. And some investors from South Korea has seen the potential of this market, hence tried to invest or put a footprint in this industry.
Oh, and more enormous potential indeed. So how did Bukalapak become one of the biggest e-commerce platforms in Indonesia? I mean, what stands behind Bukalapak's success story?
So going back with the definition of startups, we try to solve the problem in Indonesia, which is, if we talk about Indonesia, it's a very SME or small medium enterprise driven economy. We have over 60 million SMEs in the countries. So to empower the country, we think that it is a good thing if we can empower the SMEs. So in 2010, we created a Bukalapak to help empower SMEs so that they're able to sell nationwide. Because before the internet, before Bukalapak, they can only sell within their neighborhood. So their sales potential is limited. Now with the online, suddenly they can reach into more than 260 million population of Indonesia.
Right, and definitely you guys have a big population and much mobile penetration too, right? So that definitely went into the play.
Correct,
there.
so that's why after 9 years operation of Bukalapak, we have now successfully secured or empowered more than 5 million of Indonesian SMEs through the platforms. And we also track the KPIs like what is their actually revenue per merchants, right? So are they really empowered through Bukalapak? And we saw the data from Bukalapak that in 2018, the sales per merchants is actually growing 3 times compared to the previous years. So they are indeed empowered, and hopefully they can be empowered going forward as well.
Okay, impressive growth indeed. Now, we know that you're speaking at the ASEAN-Korea Startup Summit today. So how are you planning to share your experience and your success story in Indonesia to perhaps further boost relations with other ASEAN nations as well as with South Korea?
Right. So I think that the solution that we develop in Indonesia might be something that can inspire startups here in South Korea, and vice versa. We also hope to learn from startups in South Korea and also from other countries. In fact, I actually studied in Korea once in 2008, and what inspired me to create Bukalapak, one of them is coming from Korea. That was actually the first time I tried to do online shopping in 2008. So this kind of exchange of solution and knowledge is something that I think is beneficial in this era where the countries become more borderless and a lot of ideas can be exchanged from each other.
So definitely Bukalapak probably helps to make other startups go even higher and go even beyond other nations, I guess. But what are your future plans? I mean, do you plan to expand your footprint even further, even beyond?
So I think you mentioned just now that we have expanded into other countries in Southeast Asia, including Malaysia, Singapore, Brunei. So that is one of our future plan growth. The second thing is we are expanding from just e-commerce into offline spaces as well. So we are probably sort of like transforming from e-commerce into commerce company, because now we have both presence in online and also offline. In online, I mentioned that we have now secured more than 5 million merchants, and in offline, we have partnered with over 1 million of traditional retailers.
Wow.
Because in Indonesia, if we talk about the traditional offline retailers, we don't talk more about the traditional, or we don't talk more about the big chain supermarkets, but we talk about the traditional retailers, those mom and pop stores, which flourishing in Indonesia because of the geographic situation. So right now, Indonesia actually have more than 5 million of these traditional retailers, and 1 million of them have partnered with Bukalapak.
Wow. And I also read an interview about you saying that you are looking into the Middle East market as well.
So just now I mentioned that Bukalapak is now expanding into a few countries in Southeast Asia, and hopefully we don't stop there, right? We are thinking that if we can do successfully in Southeast Asia, then we can actually also expand to other countries as well. Although right now I we haven't sort of like mentioned when are we going to do that, but it's something that within our thinking at the moment.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming in today and your insights.
You're welcome. It's a nice thing as well.
All right. Now, that does it for me from the Press Center at the 2019 ASEAN-Korea Commemorative Summit. For more on the day's top stories, I'll toss you back to Mark at Arirang's News Center. Mark, take it away.